Welcome to Rad Builds, everyone. Today I'm going to show you how to make the iconic weapon of the best character in Stranger Things, and that is, of course, Steve Harrington. And if you disagree with me of Steve being the best character, not sure what's wrong with you. Anyway, you guessed it, I'm going to be making Steve Harrington's bat, as featured in Stranger Things 1 and 2. Now I'm going to show you how to make this bat twice. In version 1, will be made Jonathan and Nancy style with a bat, some nails, and a hammer. You just hammer them in. And then there's version 2 where the bat is made out of foam, more cosplay style, and it is much more play friendly and safe. Anyways, let's get to it. I'm going to be using an ordinary bat for references on measurements and shapes. Now for the base, I'm just going to be using the rod in this foam sword I have. The reason I'm using this rod is because it's bendy, so it's safe to play with, but it's also strong enough that it holds its shape. But it wasn't long enough, so I just added a pencil to make the actual length. And now I have this foam material. It's not EVA foam, but it is squishy like foam, and it's more so a packing material, but it is going to be perfect for this bat. To glue the rod in, I'm going to be using some contact cement, and I'm going to apply this to the entire foam material. You must also paint the rod, and the reason is because when you're working with contact cement, you must paint both items that you want to glue, let them dry for 10 to 15 minutes, and then you can push them together. It will create for a really strong bond. While that is drying, I'm going to be making the pommel of the bat. To do this, I'm going to be using a foam cat toy that is cheap that I purchased off of Amazon. I'm just going to cut off both ends of the cat toy. Then use some sandpaper and sand it down to the pommel shape of a bat. When I finish the pommel, the glue is dry and ready to be pushed together. So I just rolled up the tube, and while I was doing that, made sure to squish the glue tightly together. When I finished with that, I just used some duct tape and taped the one end of the bat so it wouldn't unravel. Next, I used the actual bat and marked where the bat is fattest and where it starts to thin, and finally the handle. Then I used my knife and cut off pieces to make that shape. Then I used some more duct tape to cover the entire handle. To make sure the foam fits nicely against itself when rolled up, I just used a knife and beveled down the edge of the foam. Then I used some more duct tape and covered the entire bat. Then I cut off some 2mm foam, and this piece will act as the skin of the bat. I test fit the handle inside, and it turned out it was too fat for what a normal bat would be, so I shaved off some, and then I recovered that with duct tape. Then I coated the entire inside of the EVA foam with contact cement. Then to attach the bat inside the EVA foam, I just used some super glue, attach the end, and then more contact cement, let that dry, and then you can roll that up. Then I just used some scissors and I cut off all the excess foam. The next part will be making the end of the bat more round. And to do this, I'm just cutting slits in the end of the foam and then cutting the slits into triangles. Then I just used some super glue and pushed down all the triangles towards the center. Then I just use a Dremel to sand down all the differences in foam to make sure they meet much more nicely together, to create a smoother transition. To create an even smoother transition, I'm going to be using flex spackling. Now flex spackling is good for working with foam because foam is bendable and the flex spackling will bend with it. To use it, all you need to do is place some spackling in the splits of the foam. It will also be helpful to have some water so you can get some of the spackling wet because water softens the spackling and it is easier to apply. While the spackling is drying, I'm going to be making the nails out of foam and coffee stirrers. To make the heads of the nails, just use a hole puncher and punch holes into 2mm EVA foam. After that, you can just glue those 2mm circles onto the end of the coffee stirrers. When the spackling is dry, make sure you sand it down to make it much smoother. I've just spray painted the nails using some silver spray paint as a base coat and then as a thin overcoat of rustic iron color. Now it is time to start painting. I'm going to be using Mod Podge as my base coat because it seals the foam and also it creates a very good base coat when you're trying to paint a wood texture. Don't forget to paint the pommel as well. When that was dry, I painted on a white coat. Then I painted on the final coat, which is of course brown. When that was dry, I glued on the pommel and I began attaching the nails. To do this, I just drilled a hole in the bat, trimmed down the piece of nail I wanted, added some super glue in the hole, and then placed that piece of nail into that hole. Make the nail placements quite chaotic and do this many times. Also do your best to make the nail look like it is going straight through the bat. When you are finished gluing the nails in, the bat of Steve Harrington is complete. If you decide to make this prop, you can tag me on Instagram at radbuilds3000. Thank you for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like and subscribe and hit that notification bell to receive notice about any of my new video releases. And if you'd like to check out some of my old videos, you can find that on my channel, RadBuilds. Now I encourage you to build your own Steve Harrington bat and go out and kick some Demogorgon butts. But whether you decide to build it or not, I hope I see you next time on RadBuilds.